is no Greek life at NYU.
I heard the same thing. It seems so.
Greek life?
I think we were only like 20 people in each sorority. Nothing like that. Greek life was so itchy.
Hi, my name is Sarah Hodgson, and today I'm going to be filming about what it is like to be in Greek life at NYU, and I'm going to be spilling all the secrets, everything you can't find on websites. For those of you who don't know, I am now a junior at NYU. I just had my last day of exams yesterday, online of course, but now I am officially done. I am a member and social chair of Zeta Tau Alpha, one of the Panhellenic sororities on campus, and I absolutely love it, but there are definitely some things that I would have loved to know before rushing myself or before considering joining Greek life. So if you're thinking about joining Greek life at NYU, or you're a little apprehensive or you don't really know what to think, I'm here to give you a bigger view of what to expect. And I am trying to be very honest here. Of course, I would love for you to join Greek life and rush all day long, but I want to give you as accurate of a portrayal as I possibly can, and in the process, maybe spill a little tea. Let's get started. This is mostly gonna be geared toward sorority life, so I'm sorry boys if you're watching this video expecting to hear everything about the fraternities. You've come to the wrong place, I'm sorry. Ask your friends, I don't know. But I feel like I just have a better view on sorority life, obviously, since I went through it myself. So the first thing that I'm gonna mention is a common misconception I feel that NYU Greek life has, and it's that there are not that many people in Greek life, which is true to a certain extent. The sororities on campus, member-wise, actually have the same amount that sororities at Penn State have, honestly. Although only about 7% of the NYU population as a whole is in Greek life, which is a really small amount, because there are only 7 sororities on campus. Each sorority has around 200 members, which is extremely comparable to schools like Penn State, say, or like any school that you'd presume would have a really big Greek life scene. And they are, I have them all on my phone so I don't forget anyone, Alpha Epsilon Phi, otherwise known as A Phi, Alpha Sigma Tau, otherwise known as AST, Delta Gamma or DG, Delta Phi Epsilon, also known as D Phi E, Zeta Tau Alpha, also known as ZTA or Zeta, Kappa Kappa Gamma, also known as KKG, and Pi Beta Phi, also called Pi Phi. There are a lot of other like fraternity, sororities, organizations on campus that aren't necessarily Panhell. These are just the active Panhellenic sororities on campus that I just mentioned. As a whole at NYU, Greek life is extraordinarily fun, I think. I also have a more positive view about everything, but I will try to make things as unbiased as I possibly can just for your sake. The second thing that I want to say is that rush is not that scary. Like, I remember before I was rushing, everyone was sort of hyping it up, being like, oh my gosh, I was sort of under the impression that the girls were gonna judge me, that I had to pick a really nice outfit or I wouldn't be let in, or like things like that. And it's not like anyone, like I wasn't getting any pressure from anyone in Greek life saying stuff like that to me, but it was definitely just insecurities that I had because I'm a human being with insecurities. What I wish somebody would have told me beforehand is that outfits don't matter, and it's actually really fun. And I know, like, I'm gonna be so honest, lots of people really don't think rush was fun. People quit after the first day, not because they didn't get the sororities they wanted, but like they just really didn't like or appreciate the process. But I myself had an amazing experience at Rush, and I felt like the minute that I walked into the room at Zeta, like I knew where I belonged. So after like that first or second day, it wasn't too scary for me. But again, this is just my experience. Obviously, I can't speak for anyone who's ever did Rush at NYU ever. Recruitment is usually done in the fall, but because of Corona, I think it's being moved to spring this year. And if it's being moved to spring this year, it might be always spring semester. I definitely don't know anything like for sure about that. I don't think NYU knows anything for sure about that, or Panhell at least. At NYU, and I think this is the case with all colleges, but just if you didn't know, you can rush as a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior. And I want to explain a little bit about the rush process. I definitely don't want to give everything away just because honestly, the most fun part for me during Rush was like sort of not knowing what's coming next. At NYU, Panhellenic recruitment is very formal with several rounds that you have to go through, and obviously multiple required events. So the first round sort of consists of PNMs, otherwise known as new members, interacting with every sorority. And at NYU, you do have to rush every sorority. Like, you can't pick and choose which ones you have to rush. I remember learning about, like, when I was college searching myself, I remember hearing that there was this day that you could go around and meet all the sisters from the different sororities and see which ones you clicked with, and then only rush those sororities. At NYU, you have to rush every single one. And I didn't know how I felt about that at first, but then near the end of it, I was really happy that I did, because it definitely helps you get a better sense of like who you're best vibing with, I think, personally. So on preference night, a PNM makes their preference on which sorority they want to join, and at the same time, sororities make their formal invitations. And if there's a match, PNMs become members. At NYU right now, the recruitment interest form is out. So if you are interested in rushing, or if you're even thinking about rushing, I would highly encourage you to fill that out. I don't have it in my bio right this second, but I definitely will have it in my bio when this video is up. So if you're considering it, literally even at all, definitely go fill that out. Another thing that I think is important, especially when we're talking about rush, is that no matter what you hear from anyone, and I'm not saying that like I heard this from people in sororities or whatever, but like, just no matter what you hear, do not act a certain way just to like appease certain members of a sorority. I feel like there was a common misconception around the time when I was rushing that like certain sororities wanted you to act a certain way. That is absolutely not true. Like, I can speak for my sisters, and I know like every single chapter on campus I can also speak for, that all they want is for you to act the way that you normally act. Like, don't put on a show just because you think that that's what they want to see. What they want to see, and what we want to see in the room, is you and how you are and how we click. And also the tea is, honestly, is that if you don't act yourself, they accepted you based on what they saw and like not who you actually are, and that probably wouldn't feel too good, would it? And also, if a sorority doesn't call you back the next day and you were doing nothing but being your honest, true self, do you really want to be with them anyways? You know what I mean? Like, you want your sisters to accept you and want you for you, just as you would want them for who they are as well. It definitely goes both ways. Another thing I want to say is that you don't have to be in a sorority to go to all the fun parties at NYU. Greek life is not everyone's thing, and I just don't want anyone to feel pressured. Like, if you know deep down that you don't want to be in Greek life, but you still do want to go to parties, you definitely do not have to be in Greek life. Some sororities do specifically mix with other fraternities, and it's sort of like you can only go if you're in the sorority or if you're in that fraternity. But at the same time, I feel like that's a very small percentage of like all of these amazing parties. Like, if you go to NYU or you're thinking about going to NYU, you are gonna be in like the best, most party-filled city in the world. You definitely don't have to be in Greek life to have a good time. But being in Greek life is definitely a good time, in my opinion. Also, if you know that you do want to be in a sorority, don't let the reason be that you just want to have access to like all of these amazing parties. Like, there are so many other aspects to being in a sorority, like sisterhood and philanthropy. I really don't think that wanting to party more is a good reason to join a sorority, and I'm sure all of my sisters would say the exact same thing. It definitely doesn't hurt, but don't let that be the only reason that you join a sorority. Another thing that I want to get out there, NYU has a no hazing policy, like all universities ever, but especially at NYU, and I say this obviously because I go there and I experienced it, not ever, not once did I feel pressured, or did I feel like I was getting hazed, or did I feel insecure or bad about myself due to my sisters and like their influence because I was a pledge or a new member. I would say certainly in Zeta, that is not a thing, and I'm sure that I can confidently say that about all of the other sororities on campus too. But if you do ever feel uncomfortable, if you are rushing, or if you have rushed and you feel like something was done to you that you didn't feel right about, that is absolutely not okay, and you should report that immediately. You should not ever do something that you're uncomfortable with for the sake of being liked or for getting in a group. Like, if they're making you do something that you're uncomfortable with, do you even want to be a part of them anyways? And I also want to talk about the common misconception about NYU, that it's hard to make friends or that it's hard to find your community. And I would say that if you're an incoming freshman, or even if you're going to be a sophomore, junior, senior, whatever, and if you still feel like that applies to you, and even if you don't, like if you just want to expand your community, I would suggest Greek life 100%. So even if you are looking to just meet new people and broaden your horizons, then Greek life is definitely the way to go for you. Another very, very important thing, do not listen to Greek rank. I personally despise Greek rank, and not for any biased reason. Like, I don't feel like there's any driving reason that I would be prejudiced to hate Greek rank for. And I know by me saying don't listen to Greek rank, everyone's gonna go on their laptops right now and like research Greek rank. And you can like research all you want, but in my opinion, it is not an accurate representation of Greek life at NYU, especially the sororities. They say some really mean things on there, and I personally think there's no truth to that. I think that every sorority at NYU is special and unique in its own way, and I don't think one is worse than the other. I don't think there's a hierarchy of sororities. Each PNM or each person thinking about joining a sorority should form an opinion based on your own experiences. Like, maybe what you want is to join a sorority with more artsy girls, or maybe you want to join a sorority with more like career-focused girls. It all depends on like what you want, and I think reading other people's reviews or like taking the advice to heart that other people give you about sororities, especially if anyone says like, oh, that sorority sucks, or like, oh my god, all the girls in this sorority are so bitchy. Like, that is absolutely not an accurate representation, because you don't know, like, they could have had a really negative encounter with one girl and they could have broadcasted that on the entire sorority, which is number one, unfair, and number two, does not apply to you. My advice to you would be to go to all of the events as you can, like Meet the Greeks or Club Fest, to meet as many girls as you possibly can and to form an opinion yourself, so that when you go into rush, you can make educated decisions based on your own experiences. Another thing that I want to talk about are sorority events and formal. So once you join a sorority, you have access to fun events, like fun philanthropy stuff and like Greek week and games and really fun things like that. Like, there are alumni events, scavenger hunts, like just really fun thing for sisters to do. And I feel like those kinds of things have a sort of reputation that like they're not fun, or like it's really lame to go to them, and like you'd be so much cooler if you just stayed home and watched Netflix and like didn't go to any of the things. Personally, I don't see what's cool about like you picked this sorority for a reason. I would suggest spending as much time with your sisters as you possibly can. Like, you're not spending all this money on dues, and you didn't spend all that time rushing your favorite sorority to just not go to any events. And the formals, if anyone comes up to me and says that a sorority formal is not fun, or fraternity formal, they're lying. And especially in New York City, I feel like the formals have an even added fun level, because I feel like there are endless venues to choose from. Like, I know a common thing at NYU for the fraternities to do is to rent out venues with pools inside. And because we're in New York City, we have access to all of these DJs and all of these special opportunities that formals present. So I definitely wouldn't opt out of a formal or opt out of a sorority event just because you think it might be uncool to go, or because you don't feel like going. And I can speak from personal experience. You will never not find me at a sorority bake sale or a sorority brunch, or even like unofficial things. And by that, I don't mean like anything crazy or weird, but like if all of your sisters are going out to brunch on the weekend, like, go spend some time with your sisters. Even if you do have a friend group outside of your sorority, like, it is actually so fun to just like have these group of girls who you have something in common with. And Zeta's philanthropy is breast cancer awareness, and I think that everyone who has joined Zeta has some sort of connection to that philanthropy, and not just in a literal sense, but sort of in a way. Whereas if the philanthropy chair hosted a fun run for breast cancer awareness, or a bake sale for breast cancer awareness, they would absolutely be there. But as co-social chair of Zeta, I know more than anyone the amount of effort that goes into every event that each chair or PC member or EC member plans. So even just like out of respect for your girls, like, do it for your sisters, go to their events, even if it doesn't sound the most fun to you, like, just go to support them, and I promise you the reward is awesome. A big thing that I want to talk about are dues. I believe that with every sorority on campus, you have to pay dues, and I think it varies with each sorority. However, it is definitely something to keep in mind. Like, I knew that was totally something that I was worried about when I was joining a sorority. I didn't know if I could afford it. I really didn't know if the payoff would be as I hoped. I know what I did was I sat down and I looked at what I could get out of being in a sorority, and in turn what I could give to the sorority, and if paying X amount of dollars was worth it. In every chapter on campus, you do get merch, you get a big, you get a little if you choose to, you have amazing connections, you get to go to alumni events, you get to network, you get to dress up and go to formals twice a semester, you meet amazing people, and you get to attend all of these amazing cool events. And if you do decide to rush, there are a lot of really cool opportunities that being in Greek life presents to you. A lot of my friends personally, I know, were like, I'm not paying X amount of money to like be in a sorority that I don't even know if I'm gonna like, and I totally get it, it's totally valid. However, for me personally, I'm just saying the payoff was definitely worth it. Also, along those lines, I think another really important thing to think about when deciding whether or not to rush is if you can handle the time commitment, because I'm not gonna lie to you, being in a sorority is a little overwhelming at times because I do have a part-time job and I am a full-time student. And I don't want to say like you have to live and breathe your sorority, but at the same time, you do really have to show up. And that goes along with dues, I think too. Like you can't, I don't understand why people would pay that much money and go through a rush all to just not show up to events. Like I just don't think that's very practical. So what I would suggest is for every single person to just sit down and make sure that they can handle it in their schedule. And I feel like this especially rings true for NYU students in particular. I feel like all NYU students are so busy all the time. I actually just feel like that's true for everyone in New York City, not just NYU in particular. So for that reason especially, just sit down and make sure that you can actually commit to your sisters, your sorority, and the payoff will be absolutely amazing, I promise. And I think I'm just gonna end by saying that even though NYU is not the biggest Greek life-centered school, or even though people might have certain misconceptions about Greek life that don't necessarily match up with mine, from my personal experience, I have made such amazing friends and I do not regret joining a sorority in the least. I love Zeta. I think it was the perfect fit for me. I have the best big in the world. I'm taking on a little next year. I consider myself a very active member. I go to all of the events that I can possibly go to. I attend all the formals. I am on PC. As I said before, I'm co-social chair with my friend Amy. And I guess my last piece of advice is that if you do decide to join Greek life, I would suggest trying to get a position in PC or EC. I think that it's absolutely so rewarding, and yeah, it is a little bit more of a time commitment, so that is another conversation that I think you have to have with yourself when considering a leadership position in a sorority and like actually making that much more of an effort to show up for your sisters. You definitely don't have to be in a sorority to go to parties. However, I know this is true for me. Whenever I go into a party, I like always look around for my sisters. And don't get me wrong, I love all of the girls from all the sororities on campus. I find that like the Greek life women in particular are so inspiring and like amazing. I just think that there's so much potential to form this like beautiful community and these amazing connections, friend-wise, career-wise, philanthropy-wise. Joining a sorority was definitely one of the better decisions I made being at NYU, and I would 100% suggest it if it is right for you. And hopefully this video gave you some insight into that. I remember before I rushed, I wanted someone to like just answer all my deepest, darkest questions because I was so nervous about it. So if you want to shoot me a DM on Instagram or say something in the comments, I will be happy to answer. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.